Tourism is growing. Pond Inlet is a gateway to Surmillik National Park. Cruise ships visit in summer, and adventure tourists pay substantial money to see icebergs, polar bears, and narwhal.
Welcome back to another reaction video, and thank you if you're joining for the first time, and a special thank you if you have been here before. Thank you and welcome back. Today's reaction video is about the most isolated towns in Canada.
Oh.
Yes.
Isolated in the sense that there are not many people in the town.
Isolated in the sense that it is not easy to access those towns. To get there is not easy.
Okay.
Yep. So, without talking too much, let's go find out which of these communities are that isolated in Canada.
All right.
Imagine calling for an ambulance and being told the weather is too bad.
Huh?
Wait until tomorrow. Imagine paying $28 for a head of lettuce. Imagine 4 months without seeing the sun. Now imagine choosing that life, not being stuck with it, choosing it. Canada has 292 remote and isolated communities. 96 of them have no roads. Never have. Probably never will. Everything and everyone arrives by plane. About 200,000 people live in these places, and 80% of them are indigenous. Communities that have existed for thousands of years in locations most Canadians could not find on a map. Here is what I wanted to understand. Why stay? When the milk costs $18 and the nearest hospital is 1,000 kilometers away, when the darkness lasts for months and the cold can kill you in minutes, why not just leave? The answers I found were not what I expected.
Okay.
These are 12 of the most isolated towns in Canada.
Okay.
And the real reasons people choose to stay. Number 12, Grise Fiord. Population 130. Location, the southern tip of Ellesmere Island. Nunavut.
Oh, we did a video on Grise Fiord just back. And then that is just like number 12. It's the most isolated town, Grise Fiord, with a population of 130. When we were doing the video, they said they were 129 because one person left or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Kind of rough calculation.
Population 130. Location, the southern tip of Ellesmere Island, Nunavut, Canada's northernmost civilian community. The nearest hospital is in Iqaluit, approximately 1,160 kilometers away. That is not a typo. If you have a heart attack in Grise Fiord, your survival depends on the weather cooperating for a medevac flight. A 4-liter jug of milk costs $16 to $20. A round-trip flight to Ottawa runs about $5,000 to $7,000. The average January temperature is minus 35 to minus 40 degrees Celsius, and from late October to mid-February, the sun does not rise at all. 4 months of polar night. Let that sink in. Here is the thing about Grise Fiord. It should not exist. In
4 months of polar darkness.
Here is the thing about Grise Fiord. It should not exist. In 1953, the Canadian government relocated Inuit families from northern Quebec and Pond Inlet to the high Arctic, ostensibly to reduce hunting pressure, but actually to assert Canadian sovereignty during the Cold War. Families were promised better hunting and told they could return home if they did not like it. Neither promise was kept. In 2010, the Government of Canada formally apologized for the High Arctic Relocation Program. It is recognized now as one of the darker chapters in Canadian history.
That's dark.
And yet the descendants of those families have chosen to stay. 3 generations later, people have transformed a place of exile into a home they fiercely protect. One elder, whose family was part of the original relocation, said, "They brought us here against our will, but our children and grandchildren chose to stay, and that means something. This is Inuit land now." The community survives on a combination of government employment, subsistence hunting, and sheer determination. Country food like seal, muskox, narwhal, and Arctic char is not just cultural practice. It is how families afford to eat when store prices are astronomical. Everyone knows everyone. When someone struggles, the community responds. It is isolation from the outside world that creates intense connection inside. Moving along to number 11, Old Crow, Yukon. Population 245. This is the only community in Yukon with no road access. Fly in only. approximately 800 kilometers north of Whitehorse, above the Arctic Circle.
Jesus.
A round-trip flight costs $800 to $1,200. Store prices run about 2 to 3 times what you would pay in Whitehorse. The nearest hospital is a flight of 800 kilometers away.
When the flight prices are this expensive, how do they
manage to afford the money to pay the flight
Yeah,
prices?
what are they working to get that much money to do that, to do all those travel?
Let's be real about what makes Old Crow different from Grise Fiord. This is not a community created by government relocation. The Vuntut Gwich'in have lived in this area for at least 20,000 years. That is not hyperbole. The Bluefish Caves near Old Crow have produced the oldest known evidence of human activity in Canada. When residents say, "This is our home," they are speaking of a connection that predates the pyramids by 15,000 years. Old Crow sits on land that has never had a road. Think about that. 20 millennia of continuous human habitation, and still no permanent road connection to the rest of Canada. The community exists because of the porcupine caribou herd, one of North America's largest, about 200,000 animals that migrate through the area every year. The Gwich'in call themselves the caribou people, and that is not metaphorical. When the caribou come through, the entire community goes out to hunt. It is food security, cultural practice, and identity all wrapped into one. Here's what you get in Old Crow: a self-governing First Nation that controls its own affairs. The Vuntut Gwich'in negotiated their own land claim and self-government agreement. They run their own government, their own school, Chief Zegitlit School, where Gwich'in language and culture are integrated into the curriculum, and their own health programs. Children grow up speaking Gwich'in, learning to live on the land, knowing exactly who they are. The South has more stuff, but it does not have what makes us who we are. A young mother who returned after university explained it this way. She left for education in British Columbia, experienced culture shock and homesickness, and came back to raise her family. Her kids hunt caribou with their uncles and grandfather. They speak Gwich'in daily. She gave up concerts and restaurants and variety stores for something she could not find anywhere else. The challenges are real. Winter darkness is long. Career options are limited. The cost of everything flown in is punishing. Climate change is affecting caribou.
So, like, when the community doesn't have a road, it means what is actually preventing it? Like, the cost of constructing the road, or the geography is physically impossible for that road to be constructed. Yeah, because that's
I
crazy.
think that's a very good question.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's really that the length of the road, or it is not worth constructing that road. Please tell us.
Caribou migration patterns, which threatens the foundation of Gwich'in life. An elder and former chief who led the community through land claims negotiations captured it. "We are the caribou people. As long as the caribou come, we will be here."
Yep.
The question that keeps community leaders up at night is this: what happens if the caribou stop coming? Number 10 brings us to Nain, Labrador.
Nain.
Population is 1,125.
Wow.
This is the northernmost permanent settlement in Newfoundland and Labrador, on the northern Labrador coast with no road connection. You reach Nain by daily flights from Happy Valley Goose Bay, about 370 kilometers away, or by coastal ferry during the summer months. A round-trip flight to Goose Bay costs $700 to $900.
Give me a minute.
A flight to St. John's costs $1,500 or more. A bag of flour that costs $12 in St. John's might cost $25 or more in Nain. Here is what makes Nain significant. It is the administrative capital.
A bag of something that costs $12 is likely to cost $25.
Nain.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
That's more than times 2 the price.
Yeah.
They think that where they are is first of all
Far.
small and far again. I mean, prices are instead supposed to reduce by 2, not increase by 2.
Of Nunavut. Nunavut became, in 2005, the first self-governing Inuit region in Canada. After centuries of colonization, residential schools, and displacement, Labrador Inuit now govern their own affairs from this remote coastal community. The Nunavut government office building in Nain is one of the most sophisticated government facilities north of Goose Bay, a symbol of what Indigenous self-determination looks like in practice. Nain is also the gateway to Torngat Mountains National Park, one of the most spectacular and least visited parks in Canada. Polar bears are a significant presence. The Torngat area has one of the world's highest densities. When residents talk about the challenges of living here, polar bear safety actually comes up. This is exactly as dangerous as it sounds. The landscape is dramatic. Mountains of the Torngat Range visible across the water, rocky barrens, the boreal forest edge, fjords, and islands. People pay thousands of dollars to visit for a week. Residents wake up to this every morning. A middle-aged hunter who works part-time as a tourism guide described his life like this. Land provides. I can hunt caribou, seal, fish. My freezer feeds my family. I take tourists out to see polar bears and I'm home for dinner. Try that in Toronto. He left Nain briefly for work in Happy Valley Goose Bay. He came back because he missed the hunting and the coast. A young professional who returned after university to work for the Nunavut government put it differently. In St. John's, I was just another face. Here I matter. My work matters. That's worth more than fast food and clubs. The challenges are significant. Limited social life, a small dating pool, frustrating internet, and the knowledge that any serious medical emergency means a medevac flight. But she is building something. Nunavut is run by Labrador Inuit now. That is not nothing. Let's discuss number 9, Fort Chipewyan, Alberta. Population 845. This is Alberta's oldest European established settlement, founded in 1788, nearly 100 years before Alberta existed as a province. It predates every major city in Western Canada, and yet 237 years later, it still has no year-round road connection. Fort Chipewyan, often called Fort Chip, sits on the western shore of Lake
This is good.
Canada. It just looked like a mirror on the floor with trees around it.
Athabasca, one of the largest lakes in Canada, approximately 220 kilometers north of Fort McMurray. You can fly in year-round. The flight takes about 30 minutes, or you can drive the ice road when it is open, typically 6 to 8 weeks between December and March. Or you can boat up the Athabasca River in summer. The ice road is critical for resupply. Residents stock up on everything during those brief weeks when trucks can get through. But climate change is shortening that ice road season by nearly a month over the past 50 years. What used to be 8 to 10 weeks is now 6 to 8. Spring breakup comes earlier, and fall freeze-up comes later. Residents worry about a future where even that seasonal connection becomes unreliable.
How do people survive these kind of places? I'm still wondering after 10,000 videos we have made.
Community has a complicated relationship with the oil sands. Fort McMurray is the regional hub, and the oil sands are the major employer. Some Fort Chipewyan residents work rotational shifts at oil sands operations, making good money before returning home to fish and hunt. Others are deeply concerned about environmental contamination from upstream development. Fish do not taste the same, according to elders who have watched the delta change over decades. It is a tension that runs through the community. Number 8, Kugluktuk, Nunavut.
Kugluktuk, Nunavut. That's quite a native name there. Hold on. Let's not go too back.
Some Fort Chipewyan residents work rotational shifts at oil sands operations, making good money before returning home to fish and hunt.
Okay.
Others are deeply concerned about environmental contamination from upstream development. Fish do not taste the same, according to elders who have watched the delta change over decades. It is a tension that runs through the community.
Feels as though this Alberta is the highest oil producing province in Canada. Like crude oil producing province. I feel like that. Yeah. I don't know if that's true or not.
Number 8, Kugluktuk, Nunavut. Population 1,491. Located at the mouth of the Coppermine River where it meets the Arctic Ocean, Kugluktuk is the westernmost community in Nunavut. The nearest road-connected community is Yellowknife, approximately 870 kilometers away by air. A round-trip flight costs $1,500 to $2,000.
Yeah.
Milk is $12 to $15 a jug. Here is the thing about Kugluktuk. The Copper Inuit, Inuit, have lived in this area for thousands of years, named for their use of native copper from the region to make tools. This was some of the only indigenous metalworking north of Mexico before European contact. Today, that land still provides. Nearby mines extract diamonds and gold, and some residents work shifts at these operations before returning home to hunt caribou, using knowledge their ancestors developed over millennia. It is ancient and modern existing side by side. A hunter who splits time between traditional hunting and mine work explained, "Where else would I hunt caribou and make this kind of money? The mine pays well, and when I am not working, I am on the land." Mining is not perfect, he acknowledged, but it lets people stay in their community rather than relocating to cities. The caribou herds are declining though, and that worries everyone. Time to visit number 7.
Pond Inlet, Nunavut. Nunavut is carrying most of the isolated communities. Yeah.
Pond Inlet, Nunavut. Its population is 1,617.
Okay,
If you're looking for the
16,
single
17.
most beautiful community in the Canadian Arctic, this might be it. Pond Inlet sits on northern Baffin Island on Eclipse Sound across from Bylot Island, surrounded by mountains, glaciers, and on any given summer day, approximately 300 icebergs drifting past. That is not an exaggeration. Massive chunks of glaciers from Greenland and Baffin Island float through one of the most spectacular concentrations of icebergs in the world. Residents wake up to views that nature documentaries spend millions trying to capture. The Inuit name for
Wow.
Pond Inlet is Mittametelek, the place where Mittama is buried. The people here call themselves Mittametelek, people of this place, and their
Mittametelek.
ancestors have been here for thousands of years. The primary draw is narwhal. Pond Inlet is famous for narwhal hunting. These extraordinary animals, the unicorns of the sea, migrate here every summer, and hunters pursue them using techniques passed down for generations.
Wow.
The matek, raw narwhal skin, is shared throughout the community in a practice of collective sustenance as old as the culture itself. Tourism is growing. Pond Inlet is a gateway to Surmillik
Wow.
National Park. Cruise ships visit in summer, and adventure tourists pay substantial money to see icebergs, polar bears, and narwhal. A young tourism guide and carver described what this means for the community. He said, "Tourism is giving us new ways to stay. I show visitors our land, our culture. I get paid to share what I love." His grandmother survived residential school. His mother rebuilt their culture. He is sharing it with the world. That is progress, he said. An
Yeah.
elder who has hunted narwhal for 50 years carries extensive traditional knowledge of ice, weather, and animal behavior. His explanation for staying was simple. He said, "The narwhal brought us here. They keep us here. When I'm on the ice edge waiting for narwhal, I'm doing what my grandfather did and his grandfather before him. Why would I leave that?" But the ice is changing, he warned. It is harder to predict. Hunting is getting more dangerous. Climate change worries him for his grandchildren. The challenges are familiar. Extreme
What a
costs.
beautiful community. Look at their houses. And they are put like no houses touching the ground. All of them are suspended.
Housing shortage, overcrowding. A round-trip flight to Ottawa costs about $4,000. Fresh produce is rare. The polar night in winter is psychologically challenging. Mental health resources are limited, while suicide rates remain tragically high. And
Why?
yet, the South has everything except what matters,
Paulatuk.
the elder said. We have
Paulatuk.
what matters. Number 6. Paulatuk, Northwest Territories. Population 265. This is remote, even by northern standards. Located on the Arctic coast at Darnley Bay, approximately 400 kilometers by air from Inuvik, which is itself hardly a metropolis. A round-trip flight to Inuvik costs $800 to $1,200, and a flight to Yellowknife costs $2,000 or more. The community sits at the gateway to Tuktutnugayat National Park, which
Tuktutnugayat.
contains spectacular canyon lands and waterfalls that almost nobody ever sees. Here is the ironic detail about Paulatuk and Tuktutnugayat. It is the only community with road access to the park, except there is no road. The only way to reach the park is by chartered aircraft, or by a multi-day hike from Paulatuk itself. The park protects the calving grounds of the blue-nosed caribou herd, the same herd that Paulatuk residents have hunted for thousands of years. It is conservation and traditional use in direct relationship. The people who depend on the caribou are the neighbors of the land that protects them. The Inuvialuit community here is tight-knit in ways that are hard to explain to people who have never experienced it. With 265 people, everyone is connected. When someone needs help, everyone is there. That is Inuvialuit way, as one resident put it. A hunter and guide who has lived in Paulatuk his entire life described his reasoning. This is home.
Why is it that most of the indigenous people almost look like Chinese or Asian people? I don't know if I'm not getting well. Almost
They
all of
look
them
like
look like
Chinese.
yeah. Almost all of the indigenous people look like Chinese, if I'm not making a mistake. Yeah, it's kind of like that, and I don't know why though.
The video of the regular video that we watched when those people that were doing a tour to the hottest place in Canada.
Yeah,
The lady looks like a Chinese.
yeah, she looks like an Asian, Chinese, or something, Korean.
It could be one
yeah.
of the indigenous people.
Yeah, it could be. That's something I actually thought about it.
Entire life described his reasoning. This is home. The caribou, the beluga, the land, everything I need is here. Why would I live anywhere else?
No.
He said the South has stores. We have the land. He knows which he prefers. The challenges are significant. The cost of living is punishing, services are minimal, and the distance from medical care is frightening. Satellite internet is expensive and slow. Cell service is essentially non-existent outside the community. In winter, darkness and extreme cold limit outdoor activity. When flights cannot land due to weather, the community is completely cut off. Medical emergencies have resulted in tragedies when weather prevented evacuation. But the traditional economy works here. Caribou and beluga provide substantial food. The land sustains people, as it has for thousands of years. For those who fit this life, there is no stress, no traffic, no crime. You wake up and go out on the land. That is the life. Not everyone can handle the isolation, the darkness, the limitations. But
Example of anyone that one example of people that cannot handle that isolation. Me.
Me.
It's very hard.
Well, really, really hard.
It's really hard to live in these places where you don't cultivate, because for those of us who grew up here in Cameroon, we are used to cultivating stuff or seeing people cultivating. We live in a just white snow everywhere. The only food there you buy is transport is expensive to go everywhere. Medication is expensive. Almost everything is expensive except for the natural organisms that you hunt them by yourself. Yeah, it's not easy. Honestly, these people are powerful.
those who stay have found something that makes the trade-offs worthwhile.
Okay.
Number 5 is harder to talk about. Tadoule Lake, Manitoba. The population is 350. This is one of the most isolated communities in Manitoba, accessible only by plane, approximately 500 kilometers by air from Thompson. A round-trip flight costs $800 to $1,200. No road has ever reached Tadoule Lake. Let me explain why this community exists, and you will understand why people stay. In 1956, the Canadian government forcibly relocated the Saisi Dene from their traditional lands at Little Duck Lake to Churchill, Manitoba. The government said it was to improve their lives and to save declining caribou herds. What followed was catastrophic. Families were dumped near the town garbage dump. They had no housing, no employment, no support. They were torn from the caribou hunting grounds that had sustained them for thousands of years. Hundreds died from exposure, disease, starvation, and violence over the following years. It has been called Canada's hidden genocide. The survivors eventually founded Tadoule Lake in 1973, choosing this remote site to be near the caribou again. Let that sink in.
I know sometimes when we do reaction videos about Canada, some of you think that we think that Canada is just this perfect country that does no wrong. No, we don't think like that. Of course, this is the something dark that Canada did back then, which was diabolic. It wasn't good for any politician to have done that. Sometimes politicians just act according to what they feel. And so, honestly, we don't think that Canada is this perfect country that does no wrong or is so good and everything is good and everything is just smooth sailing. No. You know, you guys are dealing with homeless people. You just have your political, economic, social problems that you deal with. And it is not in our position to come in and analyze the negative part of Canada, right? You as a Canadian, you would see Cameroon, you enjoy the places in Cameroon, but you don't know the internal problems of Cameroon. Us Cameroonians, we can talk about it and we tell you. So if there's something negative about Canada, mostly Canadians, you guys, you have your right to talk about it, learn about it. So for us, it's about us just looking at the positive side of Canada. I think your positive side outweighs the negative part by far. And so why not dismissing the negative stuff? We are most particularly appreciating the positive part. Yeah. So we are not here. We cannot tell the government of Canada, hey, don't do this. Who are we? We are nobody.
Yeah.
But we
Or
can.
why did you do this?
Yeah, why
You
did
have
you do
done
that?
like this?
Yeah.
Or go do this.
So at the end of the day, the most impact that we can have is talk about the beauty of Canada, get many people to know things that Canada is capable of doing, how good Canada looks. So because your country deserves more visibility than it currently gets. And since we started making these reaction videos, we have learned way more than enough that we expected to have learned it. It's something that the things are so impressive, we should have known about it, but the media and the people don't talk much about it.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is just terrible.
Yeah. So this is why we react to Canada. And when you get to learn more about my country, you will know why we're fascinated by your country. Yeah.
After near extinction, the Saisi Dene chose to rebuild in another isolated location rather than assimilate into towns. They walked back toward the land. An elder who was a child during the 1956 relocation, who lost family members to the conditions in Churchill, and who helped establish Tadoule Lake, explained that the government moved them once and nearly destroyed them. He said they moved themselves here, and they are rebuilding, and this is ours. Today, every resident living here is making a statement that the Saisi Dene endured and continue. They call themselves the Caribou Eaters. The caribou is their life, food, clothing, tools, identity. Where the caribou go, they follow. Dene language is actively spoken and taught. Traditional hunting practices continue. Ceremonies persist. The community has chosen cultural survival in one of the most challenging environments imaginable. The challenges are immense. Extreme cost of living with everything flown in. Very limited employment. Housing conditions that vary. Distance from all services. Intergenerational trauma from the relocation is profound. Rates of suicide and addiction are tragically high, as in many indigenous communities. The caribou herds are declining, an existential threat to a community that defines itself by its relationship to these animals. But the resilience is extraordinary. The elders who survived the relocation are still here. Their grandchildren speak Dene. They built this place after everything was taken from them. Number 4 is not really a town at all, but it might be the most extreme example of isolation in Canada. Alert Nunavut. Population 55 to 100 depending on season.
Okay.
Location
Fast.
Ellesmere Island, 82 degrees 30 minutes north latitude. This is the northernmost permanently inhabited place on Earth.
Jesus
Alert
Christ.
sites 817 kilometers from the North Pole. If you walk due north from here, the next land you would encounter would be the northern tip of Russia, after crossing the pole and walking another 3,000 kilometers. The average annual temperature is negative 18 degrees Celsius. In winter, it drops to negative 32 degrees Celsius on average and feels colder with wind chill. From October to February, the sun does not rise at all. From April
October to February, the sun does not rise. So they celebrate Christmas in the dark. Wonderful. And it's been like that for thousands of years.
to August, it does not set. Alert was established in 1950 as a signals intelligence station during the Cold War. Operators could listen to Soviet communications bouncing off the ionosphere. Today it serves as a military surveillance post and, critically, as the northernmost weather station on Earth. The climate data collected here goes back decades and documents climate change in real time. Here is what makes Alert different from every other community on this list.
Okay.
Nobody chooses to live here permanently. Military personnel serve 6-month rotations. Weather station staff rotate through. Researchers visit briefly. Then, everyone leaves. Mandatory psychological screening is required for postings because the environment is inherently difficult. Polar night means months without sun, close quarters with the same 50 people, limited facilities, limited entertainment, no way to leave until your rotation ends except by emergency evacuation, and weather can ground aircraft for extended periods. Medical emergencies here are genuinely terrifying. A military technician who completed a rotation described the experience. He said, "You cannot explain alert to someone who has not been there. It breaks you down and builds you back up. I left a different person than when I arrived. The darkness was the hardest," he said. By month 3 of Polar Night, everyone is struggling. But he volunteered to go back. He found the silence, the cold, the absolute end of the world feeling. He found the northern lights.
Wow, look at the northern lights.
Unlike anywhere else. He found the camaraderie of shared extreme experience, walking on the frozen ocean. The bragging rights of saying you did it. Alert represents the outer edge of what humans can endure. It is not really about choosing to stay. Nobody does. But it shows what isolation actually means at its most extreme. Let's head to number 3, Bella Coola, British Columbia.
Okay.
Population approximately 2,050 people in the valley. This one is different. Bella Coola has a road. But here is the thing about that road. When the British Columbia government refused to build one, the residents built it themselves. Starting in 1953, locals carved the Freedom Road through the mountains using their own equipment and labor, including the infamous descent known as the Hill, a 40-kilometer stretch that drops 1,500 meters, with grades up to 18%, no guardrails, and switchbacks that have turned around many an RV. The road remains a test of commitment. Anyone who lives in Bella Coola...
It makes sense because in my village, the government hardly construct roads. So let me show you something.
No.
In my village, the government hardly construct roads, so the roads are like this. The community will come out with their shovels and their digging axes, and then they'll dig the road with the hand. So after 7 days, we come out for we call it community walk. There is somebody with a gun who will go around announcing, waking up people at 5 a.m. and then they're going to go dig the road. Probably a few 100 meters per day, and then they'll go on until they construct the road. As a kid, most of the roads that I know in my village were dug by hand. Almost all the village that they will manually use their hands. Even bridges, they will cut down trees and then come and use the tree as a bridge. People will roll the tree to the other side and then they will tie ropes on it and then drag it until it crosses the bridge to the water to the other side, and then a bridge was made. Yeah, that's how we constructed roads in my village back then. But now, at least they use machines somehow.
No guardrails and switchbacks that have turned around many an RV. The road remains a test of commitment. Anyone who lives in Bella Coola has, by definition, driven down the hill at least once. It is a filter that keeps out the uncommitted. The valley sits at the head of a fjord, surrounded by mountains, part of the Great Bear Rainforest, one of the last intact temperate rainforests on Earth. Grizzly bears fish for salmon in the rivers, and the area is one of the best bear viewing destinations in North America. Nuksock Nation has inhabited this valley for thousands of years. The community is mixed, about 40% Nuksock, with Norwegian settler descendants and more recent arrivals drawn by the landscape. A transplant who runs an ecotourism business put it simply. She said, "The hill is not a barrier. It is a filter. It keeps out people who are not serious about being here. I am serious." She drove down the hill, saw the valley, and thought, this is it. Francois, Newfoundland, population 73. This tiny, isolated community sits in a fjord on the south coast of Newfoundland, surrounded by steep cliffs. No road connection is geographically possible. The terrain will not allow it. You reach Francois by provincial ferry from Hermitage, about 20 kilometers away, a 45-minute trip. The government of Newfoundland and Labrador has offered Francois residents money to relocate under its community relocation program. They have said no, repeatedly. Despite the isolation, the aging population, and the lack of healthcare, 73 people have decided that this fjord, these salt box houses, this view, is worth more than convenience. An elderly fisherman from a family there for 4 generations said they have tried to move us 3 times. We said no each time. They will have to carry me out. A retiree who spent 40 years in St. John's before returning to her family home drinks coffee every morning looking at the fjord and thinks this is heaven. She gave up a city career for this. It was worth it. She is home. The community is aging. Young people leave for education and employment, and most do not return. The population has dropped from over 200 to 73 over recent decades. Medical emergencies are frightening. In good weather, a helicopter is the lifeline. In bad weather, you wait. But the people who remain have made a choice. If they leave, Francois is gone. Someone has to keep it alive. They chose to be those people. And finally, number 1, Fogo Island, Newfoundland. Population is 2,244. This might be the most surprising entry on this list, not because of extreme isolation, but because of what the community did about it. Fogo Island sits off the northeast coast of Newfoundland, connected by ferry to the mainland. When the cod moratorium hit in 1992, the island seemed destined to become another abandoned outport. Young people were leaving. The fishing industry was dead. The government was offering relocation money. Fogo Island was dying. Instead, Zita Cobb, a Fogo Island
I feel as if the governor back then used to love to relocate people so much. I don't know why people always think it's easy to relocate the whole community. It's not easy,
It's not easy at all.
except that there are risks of a natural disaster like earthquake, eruption, and things like that, flooding and things like that. But it's not always easy. Even when people have accurate information that they are living in a dangerous place, they always find it very hard to leave. We have a situation where a landslide took away so many people's lives over here because they lived under a hill and they've been advised to leave that place and they refused. And all of a sudden, there was a landslide which dealt so many lives, more than 30 lives. And it was devastating, but it's always very hard for people to leave. I think if there's no valid and extremely good reason, it's not advisable to even think about it.
Because even if you want to leave, those old people,
They always find it extremely hard.
find it extremely hard. They
Yeah.
always want to keep their legacy going.
Yeah. Like my grandmother, she lives in the village totally alone. And we've traveled to town, but she has absolutely refused to not come to town.
Even to come and greet.
Yeah, she doesn't want to come to town. She likes to live there. She wants to say she is comfortable in the village. And so for those of us who are living in town and schooling, it's hard to go back and sit in the village with her. So she's there alone. You know, we just call her and know how she's doing, and that's all. She's totally fine and happy. Yeah.
who had left at 18 and become a tech executive, returned home and founded the Shorefast Foundation. She built the Fogo Island Inn, a stunning piece of architecture that has become an international destination for wealthy travelers from around the world. Rooms start at $2,000 per night. That is not a typo. The inn employs over 75 people, mostly locals. All profits go back into the community. It is the most improbable economic development story in Newfoundland history. A dying fishing community saved by luxury tourism and social enterprise, built by people who refuse to let their home disappear. A fisherman whose family has been on Fogo Island for generations watched the whole transformation. They told us to leave. We stayed. Now we're famous. Turns out we knew something they didn't.
Yep.
Artists are drawn by residency programs. Young people are returning. The population is stabilized after decades of
Oh,
decline.
look at how beautiful the place is. Extremely beautiful community.
Very, very beautiful. Good road. Like good road to various
Yeah,
houses.
around the city, around the town, right?
Around the town.
Quilting, boat building, and other traditional crafts have been revived. A young professional who worked in Halifax before returning to work with the Shorefast Foundation explained why. I never thought I'd come back, but what's happening here is special. A community that refused to die. I wanted to be part of it. The challenges remain real. The ferry schedule rules your life. Dating options are limited. Winter can feel long. But Fogo Island proves something important. Isolation isn't necessarily a death sentence. Communities can choose their own futures. What ties all these places together is not just geography or difficulty. It is the choice. The people who live in Grise Fiord, Old Crow, Nain, Fort Chipewyan, Kugluktuk, Pond Inlet, Paulatuk, Tadoule Lake, Coola, Francois, and Fogo Island have all answered the same question. What is a place worth? Their answers are different from what most of us would give. They have traded convenience for community, access for connection, stuff for silence. Maybe they are crazy, or maybe they have figured out something the rest of us are still chasing.
True.
Belonging. What would you trade for a different kind of life? Please let me know in the comments if you have visited or lived in any of these places. I would love to hear what I got wrong and what I missed. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching to you. And let us know if you have visited any of these places. That is extremely interesting, Canada. Oh my
If
god.
there's actually somebody here that have visited any of these places, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a war for you.
Anyways, thank you. And see you in the next video.
Baby.